the Giants did beat the Packers 27-22. Now, did this game showcase that the Giants are as good as their record depicts, or did it just expose the Packers?
Let's talk on the Packers first because we just spoke a lot about the Giants and the Jets. The Packers have been probably the second most disappointing team. The first being the Denver Broncos. The Packers, if you knew, which I did know, without Davante Adams, this offense was going to take a huge hit. Because if you watch that Niners game, there was two people that Aaron Rodgers felt comfortable throwing the ball to. It was Davante Adams and it was Aaron Jones. You took away arguably the best wide receiver, to most, the best wide receiver in football off of his team. And you left him Aaron Jones with A.J. Dillon as well, who is a fine complimentary back as well. Last season, he was very efficient. But this year, they've struggled to find their legs. Why? Because they don't have a true X. Where we're seeing Lazard being used. We're seeing Randall Cobb being used more than probably should be. We're seeing Christian Watson get minimal opportunity, even though he was the rookie that they spent. I believe they traded up. They traded up to acquire Christian Watson, and we were higher on Christian Watson because he has the ability to be that gadget guy to a degree. He's been
schemed up too. A lot of Jets
which is exactly what we were expecting as well. But there's no and Romeo Doubs. I cannot disrespect. Romeo has been very impressive for where he was drafted as well. There was no guy at the wide receiver position that you looked at and thought, man, they could still thrive in the passing game. The only reason why you could have had any type of belief of that was because Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. And even still, as great as Aaron Rodgers is, he is not great enough to elevate these guys that are on his team right now. Aaron Jones, he's been great in terms of efficiency. I believe he is the league leader in terms of yards per carry, but it's been on minimal attempts as opposed to a Saquon, a Chubb, a Derrick Henry. This offense is lacking. It's that simple. The defense, as you alluded to earlier, has not been what we had expected coming into the season, and the defense needed to elevate to that level for the Packers to be the dominant team that people thought that they could be. Now to talk about the Giants. We spoke about it a lot. Dabble is the reason why the Giants are in this position. You have to credit Brian for a majority of their success. He has brought in a culture that the Giants have not had in a long time. He's trying to change the mindset in these players of fuck it, why not us? He has been stellar up until this point. The schemes that he's drawn up on offense, the plays that he's drawn up for Saquon being the lone back in the field, running Wildcat, it's been effective up until this point. Saquon has been amazing, and he's number 2 on this list of people that deserve credit. Saquon in both the passing and the rushing. He leads the league right now in scrimmage yards. He has been fantastic. Now, we mentioned it earlier, the defense, a top 10 defense in terms of points per game, you got to give them their credit. But Daniel Jones needs respect because he's doing this with Shepard out, with Kenny Golladay out, and even when he was on the field, what was he really?
Kadarius Toney.
With Kadarius Toney, who's missed time, who's probably, who knows when he's going to play next at this point. Dehls, who was their early pick that has not been able to step on the field. He's been able to put together game-winning drives, 3 of them, tied for most in the league with Kirk Cousins, with a mediocre at best supporting cast. And the only reason why they get mediocre is because Saquon Barkley is on this team. I get it. Dable is number 1, Saquon's number 2, but I'll be damned if we overlook Daniel Jones.
Over Moran, who's leading one of the better defenses in the league.
Listen, of course, I said we got to give the defense their credit. I said that in my opening statement. If you'd listen to me, I'd appreciate that.
No, but you mentioned Dable, Saquon.
I'm just saying right now.
Jones.
Because when I opened my statement, I said, of course, the defense is top 10. It's top 10 in terms of
I'm not saying that. I'm saying you said Dable's number 1, Saquon's 2, Jones is 3.
I said, I'll be damned if we don't mention Daniel Jones.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm saying Jones 3 over the defense.
Statement. I'd appreciate if you let me finish. Is that all right?
No. I'm just saying Jones over the defense at 3.
I mean, let's be real, though. Quarterbacks win games for you. Defenses can win games for you, and Daniel has led 3 game-winning drives.
Who stopped the Packers in the red zone?
Shout out to them, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
But who, with Saquon out, put together a drive to tie the game? That was Daniel Jones, who put together a great drive with Saquon in, thank God. I'm glad that he was okay and was able to come back into the game. Daniel Jones gets slighted when this is the first year he's had a competent offensive mind. Saquon is the Saquon we thought he would be when we saw his rookie season, and a glimpse of it his second year. It's unfortunate that he missed some time. And Andrew Thomas also, shout out to him, the highest graded left tackle in the league right now. He's a beast. I'm happy to share a name with him. But even still, the offensive line has not been great. Like I mentioned earlier, number 2 in pressures, top 10 in sacks. I believe I think he's been sacked 7th most off the top of my head. I apologize if you could check me. I'd appreciate it. But even still, Daniel Jones's ability to scramble outside the pocket has boded extremely well for this team because he is number 4 in terms of first downs gained by rushing. I believe the only ones that have more are Nick Chubb, Jalen Hurts, and Josh Jacobs. Daniel Jones is 4th with 21. This Giants team has been fun to watch, and it's been fun mostly because no one really expected this from them. And that's why they're able to go out there and play loose, because they have nothing to lose. And that's what Daboll's instilled in these guys. We're going to talk about it later, whether they're one of the pretenders or are they a real 4-1 team. But let's just appreciate the fact that they're out doing what they're doing with the limited personnel that they have. They're early to the process.
Yeah, for sure. Daniel Jones, 8th most sacks. He's
8th most.
14.
I hit it right in the nail. Let's go.
14.
Nobody's taking away credit from the Giants. It's just people trying to hype them up into a conversation that they do not belong in. Even with the Giants being 4-1, they are not a top 15 team in football. I don't even know if they're a top 18 team in football right now. There are so many teams better than the Giants, despite their 4-1 record. They had the luxury of playing a schedule as of now that hasn't been one of the toughest in the league. It's just what it is. And this is the NFC East. The NFC East in totality has not faced great teams thus far. The Dallas Cowboys, the Eagles, the Giants. The Commanders have had the toughest start.
The Eagles played the Vikings. They smoked them. Cowboys played the Bengals. They handled them with Cooper Rush as their quarterback.
Cowboys played the who?
The Bengals.
When they were struggling, I understand.
Come on.
This Rams team is not good either.
No, and the Rams is not good, but even still, the Rams are the Rams.
It was a dominant game.
The Rams are the Rams.
Yeah.
There's a brand new fantasy app. It's called Boom Fantasy. You got over-unders, player props. You got matchups. This player versus that player. That's personally my favorite. And long shots. You can win 40 times your money. And if I'm not mistaken, Joel, NBA is coming soon.
Yes, sir. NBA will be in the app in the next 10 days or so. Wow. I believe opening night is October 19th, so we'll have stuff up a few days beforehand. That's going to be fun because we have it every night. You don't have to wait till Monday, Thursday.
Did you get your code? The League Pass?
I did get my code for League Pass.
I got my code too.
Yep, that's amazing.
That's from 2K, right?
Yes.
That's tough.
Amazing.
That's fire.
So if you guys haven't already, download the Boom Fantasy app right now. Link is in our description or in the caption wherever you're watching. Looking at this Giants game, this exposed the Packers. This didn't tell me anything new about the Giants that I didn't already know.
Come on.
What did it tell me about the Giants?
You're not wrong.
Coming into the game, what did I and people?
How many ways do they have to win? They have to win one way. Good defense, take care of the ball. Less Saquon eat.
What did I know about the Giants?
Win.
Joe, coming into this game, what did I know about the Giants? They're limited offensively. They rely on Saquon Barkley. They play aggressive defense.
Did they rely on Saquon Barkley against the Packers?
Yes, they did.
Fantastic.
What are we talking about?
He was great.
Yes.
When he went down, was it, oh my God, we need Saquon back out there. We're nothing without him. They weren't stressing in that moment.
Yeah, they didn't panic.
Because they went the length of the field and scored the game-tying touchdown. Yes,
they don't win without
is the
Saquon
heart.
Barkley.
Of course. I'm with you.
That's it. They don't win without Saquon Barkley.
But it's not completely relying on Saquon.
Nobody said
this
it
game
was.
No, you're saying this game didn't. This game didn't
They didn't
shape.
have Saquon the whole game. They won.
Of course not.
They
Saquon
didn't
is
win-
But that's fair.
Saquon.
You take
That's
the
all
best
I'm
offensive
saying.
player.
That's all I'm saying.
No, you're just misconstruing the point at hand. Saquon is obviously the Giants' most important offensive player.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about
Absolutely.
it. The offense runs through Saquon Barkley.
Definitely.
Daniel Jones, was he miraculously able to pull out a 91-yard drive without Saquon? Yes.
Miraculously, don't slide
what
him.
is it was
Don't slide him.
it was
Miraculously
a big time
hilarious.
drive, but the drive you're talking about right after, Daniel Jones dumped off a pass to Saquon. He took it 40 yards. Like, what are we talking about
How many
here?
times do we see that? It's Saquon Barkley.
What are we talking? Saquon Barkley early in the game, a wildcat formation, rushed for 40+ yards. He had big time explosive plays.
Surprise. Saquon's good at football.
All right, we're not saying this is a surprise, but Saquon is the engine to their offense.
Of course he
That's
is.
without a doubt.
I think
the Giants rely on their defense, they rely on Saquon Barkley, and they win ugly. That's the only way the Giants can win. They can win ugly. That's it. You look at their touchdowns. After the first,
This wasn't an ugly win.
It was an ugly win.
How?
Was it not an ugly win? Are we?
They were down 17-3 and came back and won. What are we doing? What are we doing?
The way they won was ugly.
Saquon went out and Daniel Jones went 90 yards and tied the game.
I'm curious. Go ahead.
How is it ugly?
I'm actually astonished that you don't understand what I mean when I say an ugly win. This was an ugly win.
How?
This game was ugly. Was this game not ugly?
It was 17-3. It was an amazing comeback win.
Nobody's saying it wasn't.
It wasn't an ugly win though.
Nobody is saying
it can't be ugly when it's
wasn't an
17-3
amazing
and you're
comeback
down.
win. It was an amazing, resilient win. It was
Explain
still
to me how it was ugly.
an ugly win.
I just want to know in your logic.
The way the offense was moving, the way they were schemed up, just the game script of the game, the script of the game. It's Saquon Wildcat. It's a bunch of misdirection stuff. The Daniel Bellinger touchdown, a double sweep at the red zone. For the Giants,
creative play calls.
This is the thing. For the Giants to succeed offensively, they have to window dress a lot of this stuff. And for the most part, the Packers were vulnerable defensively. They're the 30th ranked defense in terms of rushing DVOA.
The rushing defense is
They're
still
one of
bad.
the worst rushing defenses in the NFL. They're a bottom 20 DVOA team.
Yep.
It's ugly because outside of the only drive that I looked at the Giants and I was like, wow, this was very impressive, was the 91-yard Daniel Jones drive where they moved down the field effortlessly. But for the most part, they had favorable field position, and they only had to make a couple plays to get into that territory. We look at the 3 touchdowns they had. Saquon wildcat run, which put them in the red zone. Bellinger touchdown off the double sweep. Daniel Jones in the third quarter, he led a 91-yard touchdown drive without Saquon after he was out to a shoulder injury. And then the game-winning touchdown with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Wildcat Saquon Barkley. 21 points, 3 touchdowns, the rest were field goals. The way the Giants have to win these games are ugly. The Titans win was an ugly win.
It was.
The Panthers win was an ugly win. The way they struggled offensively versus the Dallas.
I do struggle with the Titans being an ugly win.
They got it done.
It was
to
go for 2 in that
yep.
situation.
And this is where people get it confused, where winning feels good, right? Although winning feels good, it does not take away from how the game played out. I look at a great win, an impressive showing, what the Bills did to the Steelers. The way the Chiefs were able to come back on the Raiders, how they flowed effortlessly offensively without having to window dress all this stuff. That's fantastic offensive football. I don't look at the Giants and I say, wow, this is a fantastic offensive football team. I say
no one sees that.
Exactly. When you have a struggling
don't
offense,
have a receiver.
When you have a struggling offense, you win ugly. That's what I mean about winning ugly. There's no doubt the Giants are building culture. They deserve a lot of credit. I think in one offseason, Brian Dable, Joe Shane, they've brought in the right guys, they brought in the right pieces. But like Joel has been saying, and I agree with him on this, I would say Saquon because he's the weapon. I know Dable scheming up for him, but he's the guy that's really taken that big-time step this season.
Never in doubt.
Saquon, Dable, Martindale has this defense playing aggressively, and Martindale, even in Baltimore, was known for his exotic schemes. It's ugly because you look at the Packers offensively, there's one gear. It's a quick passing game. It's getting the ball out of Rodgers' hands quick. And their only answer for punishing teams when they're closing in on their quick passing game is, okay, we're just going to send Romeo Doubs or Randall Cobb or whoever else on a go route. We're not going to do any double move. We're not going to scheme up a little wheel route here, a rub route to get somebody open on the sideline. It's just run deep, and Aaron Rodgers is gonna fucking throw it to you 60 yards. He's gonna hit it. He's the best quarterback of all time. The Packers right now are lacking creativity offensively. This wouldn't be that big of a problem, their lack of offensive weapons, if they were able to scheme up something creative. But it's not. It's a bunch of little quick screens. It's slants. It's in routes. the game was ugly. The Packers, once the first half ended, they couldn't generate anything offensively. It was a second half shutout. Do I credit Daniel Jones for shutting out the Packers offense in the second half? I credit Wink Martindale. So that's the only point we're making about it goes Dable, Saquon, Martindale, Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, yes. We're over here saying, we're not saying, yo, he had a fantastic 3-touchdown performance. We're over here saying, yo, just thankfully Daniel Jones didn't make a mistake. And I think the Giants, after each win or after each game,
thankfully, he hasn't made almost any mistakes this season.
Brian Dable, they're going out these games like, okay, Daniel Jones didn't make a mistake this week. Okay,
again,
sigh of relief.
Why?
But
that's not.
It's still
that's
not
the
expected.
truth,
it's still
man.
not expected going forward. And
No,
that's
it
what I'm
is
saying.
expected.
This game 100% exposed the Packers more than it told me anything about the Giants. This game, the Packers, we're talking about a team that back-to-back weeks against the Patriots and the Giants have struggled defensively against not so good offenses. Am I giving Daniel Jones a ton of credit when Bailey Zappi lit up the Packers? Like, what are we talking about here? It's a great showing, but this doesn't tell me anything different about the Giants. We know they're building a great culture. Are they a legit wild card playoff contender?
Devontae Parker would come here and be the Giants wide receiver 1. Jacoby Myers is a good football player.
Without a doubt.
He is a good football player outside of being on the Giants or the Patriots alone. He can go to a lot of teams and be successful. He would come to the Giants and be their wide receiver 1.
For sure. Without a doubt.
Nelson Aguilar could come to the Giants and be their wide receiver 1.
Yes.
Hunter Henry could come to the Giants and be their number 1 receiving option. The Giants are pathetic at the wide receiver position as of right now.
Worse than the league.
And they're 4-1. And Daniel Jones is making it work. Saquon is the best offensive player on this team. But again, you by far and away. But you can't gloss over the fact that Daniel's doing this with nothing. That's the only point I'm making.
Yes, and it's a bit of a chicken or the egg situation. Because these wide receivers, you have none. Because the tight ends aren't good. Because the offensive line isn't good. Dable has to protect Daniel Jones, and he's doing the right thing. Like I mentioned, I'm not here shitting on, and the reason why I wasn't over here defending this ugly win, I love what the Giants are doing. In the offseason, we were all high on Joe Shane, on Brian Dable, on the draft class they had. We all saw what they were doing, but to your credit, or to your point, Drew, this is all faster than expected. We did not expect them to start off 4-1, beating the Packers, right? These are all, regardless of how they look right now, these are games we were not expecting them to win, or even look at now saying, the Packers are probably still more talented than them. The Titans are still probably more talented than them, but they're getting these wins regardless.